Good Monday to you. Here's a thing, family around the globe. The following episode of Here's a Thing is a bit of a mashup between the live episode and an Excursus episode. So you will certainly be able to enjoy my meandering ramblings, Excursus style, but I recorded this simultaneously with the live version of the show. The one difference is, come on, baby, get some. Oh, yeah. Anyway, I think the word you were looking for is anyway. So I did a live Here's a Thing on the Podbean platform Sunday night. Just sat down in front of the microphone and ran my mouth for about an hour. The Excursus episodes have an outline. The live versions sort of have an outline. But the difference with previous live episodes is that when I go live on the Podbean platform, I'm kind of forced to use their music instead of my brand. And the audio quality isn't pure and true as I prefer, as it is with my regular recording process. So, instead of just feeding you the recording pulled straight from the live episode, I clicked record on my system and sort of did a simul recording live mashup. So, the following presentation for you is an Excursus version of Here's a Thing, where I ramble on about this, that, and the other. Actually, because of the audience participation, I didn't even get to I got about 60% more of what I wanted to talk about remaining, and I didn't even get to my grand message of the day, so we have a whole other episode in that. So if you enjoy just, 45 minutes or so of just chit-chat conversation, just back and forth, a little Sunday evening, sit around the campfire and just ramble on about this, that, and the other thing, then you'll enjoy this episode. And I wanted to do the little preamble here because I do interact with the live audience. So if you're wondering who the heck I'm talking to, that's what it is, and that's why the presentation of the live episode sounds a little bit different. So, without further ado, I hope you enjoy the following presentation of Sunday Night Ramblings. Here's a Thing, Excursus, live. From the heart of the Lowcountry in Bluffton, South Carolina, warmest wishes to the Red Bar, just off 30A in Grayton Beach, Florida. Get those doors back open, y'all. To Big Blue Bagel in Auburn, Alabama, War Eagle. To Freebirds and those monster burritos in Isla Vista, California on the campus of UCSB. And Paesano Pizza in Glasgow, Scotland from Studio D. Here's a Thing, Excursus. Live. And that's fun. Get to feel like a radio guy doing that. Welcome in, everybody. It is so good to have you. Good Sunday evening to you around the globe, my friends and family. I hope this message finds you truly well and joyful, and that your toilet paper supply is ample. My God, I've talked that to death. Today on Here's the Thing, your toilet paper supply chain update. I don't know. We still don't have very much around here. You got to get up at about 4:30 in the morning and stand outside the Target doors to find any. But it is what it is. And as Radar once said, we all have a bear to cross. Indubitably, as I ensconce myself in the warm and lovely, friendly confines of Studio D, here in my home, as I said, in the heart of the Lowcountry, Bluffton, South Carolina. Welcome all. I know I broke the cardinal rule of recorded media, which is, I mean, I'm doing half of this live, the other half's going to be recorded. You're not supposed to drop times of day, days, all that kind of stuff that give people a sense. You want, it's kind of like the Vegas casino thing. You don't want anybody to have any concept of space or time. Well, when somebody's downloaded a podcast, if they download an episode of a podcast from a year ago, the rules state that you don't want them to hear, "Hey, welcome to Sunday evening, 8:46 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time on May 3rd, 2020. Because then they'll think, well, I'm not current. I'm not up to date. I don't have a place here. I don't care. I really don't care. Because whenever you listen to this, if you're here with me live, or if you download the episode later, it's Sunday evening here, and Sunday evening has a feel to me. And that feel is relaxed. It's not lazy, but it's relaxed. Get stuff done. Work hard, play hard. Get stuff done, chill out. Push the lawnmower around, pull a couple of weeds, fix a tomato sandwich. Stay hydrated. Chill out, watch a little TV. Record a podcast. You know, Sunday feel. So I don't care about those rules. Good Sunday evening, wherever you are and whenever you are. We'll get into the brewed beverage of the evening, which I like to share with everyone. That's what I do here. My platform. What is my platform? I'm not talking about, batting averages and yards per carry and free throw percentages. There's plenty of places for that. I'm just talking about stuff. But more than that, I do have a message to share, just a philosophy. And along with sharing comes with whatever I like. So if you join this space, I'm glad to have you. And if I find something I like a particular coffee or tea or a channel on YouTube, a song that I heard at the gym or whatever, I'm going to share it with you because that's what we do in the human family. So today's brewed beverage is I went with tea this evening. A little tea for the pipes. And it is a lovely, beautiful, deep floral tea. It's the Fort Mason mix. Loose leaf. Fort Mason loose leaf, directly from the fine folks at Fortnum and Mason on Piccadilly in London, from when we were there not that long ago. And we're getting a little bit low on this. We have the tin of loose leaf tea. Pop it open and get that floral. Oh, that floral note that will just carry you away. Just relax you and chill out. Right, chill, Will? And I put just a little bit of a half and half just to make it nice and silky for these glorious golden pipes in your ears. Oh, yes. What a great trip that was all over. There's a funny story about my daughter almost getting taken out by TSA because my wife had apparently put this canister of Fort Mason tea in her carry-on, and she did not know. And because she was a minor, I have no idea. I guess it was because she was a minor, but for some reason she got the TSA Express quick line where I guess they don't feel your crotch and, make you bend over and cough. But we did. And so she went slinging around from it. This was in Charlotte when we were coming back home, and she went through another gate while we were way over here, and we're like, hey, We'll be over here. Don't get lost. Good luck. And we found her about, 40 minutes later. And she just had this look on her eyes like WTF kind of a look. And she proceeds to tell us this story about how she was questioned by TSA. And I think it got to the point of where, are you declaring anything or are you bringing anything in? And she's like, I don't think so. Can we see your backpack? Sure. And she started freaking out about the tea. Anyway, she tells the story a lot better than I do because I wasn't there. So maybe I'll get her on here one of these evenings and she can tell that story. She's such a delightful lass. And continuing on with the things I like that I wish to share. Couple of YouTube channels, and of course they're on every other platform as well. I think when have we reached the point where we just say the thing and not say where you can find them? YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, Snapchat, the other porn sites the kids are supposed to be legit sites that the kids are using for not so legit things. It is a bitch being a parent of a teenager. Am I right? Anyway, so basically YouTube channels, but of course they're everywhere. And all you got to do is search for it. How do I find that? Just fucking search for the thing. Google. They own everything else in the world. But I've talked about this. Speaking of lass, Scottish lass, I found her. Her name is Erin. I found her when I was just missing Scotland, and I just wanted to hear. I told y'all once about how I fell in love with the disembodied voice of the ScotRail train, the announcement. Next stop, Avi Moore. Oh, I loved her. Anyway, I was longing. I think the word you're looking for is anyway. I was longing to hear that beautiful accent that I love so much. And so I just searched on YouTube for Scottish stuff. And I came across this young lady. Her name is Erin, and her site is, I got to get her to tell me what the deal with this name is. And it's probably a thing, and I'm just old and don't know what the hell it means. But it's called Beauty Creep. Beauty, as in, you're a real beauty, and creep as in, dude, why are you creeping around my space? I don't know what's up with the name, but she's adorable. She's a doll. She has friends on there sometimes, and she just makes, videos from anywhere from 8 minutes to 25 minutes long, and it's just about her life, stuff that she does, and it's pretty funny. And she tells crazy stories about train rides and plane rides and her friends and goofiness, and I just love listening to her speak. So if you have an affinity for the Scottish, or if you just want to learn how to do, if you're an actor or an actress and you want to learn a new dialect, or if you just need a few minutes to while away with something that is just pleasant, with no friction, then go check her out. Beauty Creep. Look for her on her channel on YouTube. Go subscribe to her channel and all that stuff. I'm also looking at a lot of McCann dog training. I'll throw them out there. McCann, MCCANN, dog training. And I have a Border Collie, and they work with lots of Border Collies. And Border Collies, as you may or may not know, are very high energy, very driven breed. And you got to keep them busy. You got to learn. They're smarter than we are, so you got to learn lots of new tricks and things to keep their mind engaged and their bodies physically active. So McCann dog training. And my podcast recommendations. I'm listening to, I talked to last week about Jocko Willink, and I will share his name with you anytime. There's a couple of people that you need to listen to. Jocko Willink is one of them. Jordan Peterson is the other one. But also, I'm listening to, if you're a fan of history, and I know some people's eyes glass over when I say that, history, oh my God. History taught, shared by the right voice is magnificent. It's just a story. Just a story of everything with really no beginning. Everything leads to everything else. But anyway, if you want some cool history presented to you in a really fascinating, gritty, interesting way, then you need to go check out Dan Carlin and Hardcore History. He does several podcasts, and you can find him all over the place, but primarily check out Hardcore History and go dig back in to that catalog, to his library. And in particular, especially now, there's a lot of movies and a lot of media coming out about World War I, which is something that, as I was growing up, just kind of got lost in the mists of teaching. It just wasn't as important as whatever else. But it's fascinating, and I submit to you that World War I, you can trace just about everything good and bad back to what we're with what we're doing now globally to World War I and the incredible change that happened with that. So check out Dan Carlin, Hardcore History, and all of his other stuff. And also, in the same vibe, there's another podcast called Tides of History. And Scott Rank does that, and I love his presentations. Again, it's storytelling, and it's interesting stuff. It's not a bunch of facts and figures and dates and names. And he's an expert in medieval Europe. And you want to talk about getting really confused when you start talking about these monarchs between about 1100 and 1800 or so. Good God, I don't know how you keep in touch, keep up with all that. But anyway, Tides of History, check it out. Television and movies. We talk about DOS. Welcome in as I reset for you folks on the live podcast, and the folks will be getting it on the recorded version later on, but you guys are enjoying it live, so I'll welcome in Doss, Chill, Will, Afu, Sean, Trump Train, Riri, and Mr. Andy Enright. Very special guest. Thank you for being here, everyone, and everyone in the Hat family around the globe, all the way from here in the Lowcountry of South Carolina up to Gladstone, Peapack, New Jersey, Lewis, Delaware, down to Auburn, Alabama, up to the heartland, across Chicago, across the plains, up to the Pacific Northwest, down to La Jolla Beach, one of my favorite places on earth, across the Pacific, skipping like a stone across the Hawaiian Islands, over to the Westpac, to my place of birth, Tokyo, Japan, down to G'day, Australia, down under, and across the Hindu Kush, the Russian Steppe, the Levant, Eastern Europe, and the Balkans, across on up into Western Europe, up to Scandinavia, over to the British Isles, and St. Andrews, Scotland. Welcome in. So very glad to have all of you here, far and wide. We've talked about our Fort Mason tea. We've talked about some pop culture stuff, talked about some nonsense. So, television. This goes, I think I'll try to dovetail into the Delta Bravo Hall of Fame award with this. And Andy's here. He was actually a part of this. I've been bitching about this guy for like 2 weeks, Andy. That guy really got under my skin. And I didn't look at anything else, so I don't know what y'all worked out, and I don't know this dude. He could be a very nice guy, but man, that rubbed me the wrong way. Anyway, television. If you want a ridiculous little nonsense way to spend 22 minutes, you want to binge something that you never would have thought of, if you have never watched this show, probably never watched it because of the name, but go. It's now on Amazon Prime. Go to Prime, start at Season 1, Episode 1, and watch Cougar Town all the way through. What? Yes, I know. I said it. Cougar Town. Like what you like. And if you're a fan of Bill Lawrence, if you're a fan of Spin City and Scrubs, but you've never watched Cougar Town, you will love it. It's great fun. You don't have to think about anything too deeply. Nothing makes you feel bad. And don't we need a little bit of extra of that every now and then? So go watch Cougar Town. A lot of times I'll try to think about something to recommend to you guys that you never would have either listened to or watched or anything. And if I bring just a moment of joy into your life, fantastic. If you don't want to watch it or don't want to listen to it, that's fantastic too. Like what you like. And speaking of ridiculous seeming recommendations, it doesn't matter why, but I was looking for something the other day, and I happened to look up, I got into one of those freaking lists you get into that are just idiotic, top 100 this, top 100 that, in the pantheon of things like music, food, stuff like that, where first of all, we start with the whole like what you like thing, but there's far too deep of a history and far too much material with things like music and food to have some kind of top anything rankings. That's ridiculous. Each individual person can say, these are the top things that I like, and that's awesome. And you can have your own. But anyway, I got into this list. I think it was the top 100 albums of the 70s. And somewhere around, I think it was in the 30s, 38-ish, was the soundtrack to Saturday Night Fever. Now, if you're under 40, if you're around 40, you're aware of Saturday Night Fever, but you probably didn't live Saturday Night. You definitely didn't live Saturday Night Fever. You know what? I'm gonna say 45. If you're under 45, you're aware of it, but you didn't live it. I'm 51. I lived it when I was 10, 11, somewhere around there. And everybody makes fun of disco, and there's a lot of extraordinarily valid reasons to make fun of disco, because the vast majority of it was trash. It was just pop. It was the pop music of the time. It's the same trash that's on the radio these days, just different synthesizers. But if you look at the soundtrack for Saturday Night Fever, and the Bee Gees performed most of it, I want you to stop and think about this for a second. That album had 6 number one hits. It went like quintuple platinum or some idiotic thing like that. And if you go back and listen to it now with mature ears, there's some good songs on there. Jive Talking. Go to your Amazon Music account and search up Jive Talking and just let it play. And just tell me you don't do the head bob groove thing. You'll like it, I promise. And lastly, I want to ask your opinion. If you want to send this in to me, you can send it just, again, back to the, hey, how do I find you? Dude. You can find me everywhere. Here on the Podbean app, here's a thing at yahoo.com for email, Twitter, Facebook, Facebook, Instagram. I have all that. I don't really do much with it because social media is kind of stupid, but it's good for communication. So if you want to holler at me with your opinion on this, my wife really wants to watch Ford versus Ferrari. Now, we haven't seen it because I really, and this has nothing to do with COVID. I really despise going to movie theaters. I'd hate sitting that close to people, that many people. I kind of get over it for football and things like that. Well, in fact, when we go to basketball games in Auburn, Auburn Arena is one of the most magnificent sports arenas there are. I go stand up. The upper level is standing room only. You can stand there. Nobody's packed around you. You're not trapped in a seat with 40 people on either side of you. If you have to go to the bathroom or get a thing of nachos, you just stand up there, lean on the rail, set your drink down, and you're looking straight down onto the court. You have the exact same up there from that side, from the north side of the arena On the upper level, on the standing room only, you have the exact same view that the camera does. And most views in arenas and stadia are terrible. Anyway, so yeah, movie theaters, no, thank you. So we rarely ever see anything in a movie theater. That's why we haven't seen Ford versus Ferrari. My wife really wants to see it. I've seen the trailer. It looks fine. It's not on Prime yet, so we got to pay $4 for it. So you tell me. Do I need to see it? Do I need to... listen, who's in it? Matt Damon? I mean, he's kind of a dick, but he's a good actor. And I got no problem with that. And I like cars. I like fast cars and all that kind of crap. I'm a dude. But it's just not really my jam, mostly. Not my jam. So let me know. Should I see it or not? You can go ahead and tell me right here on the chat if you'd like to. But, so that's my cultural recommendations, references, and questions for the evening. Let me get into this. I want to make sure I don't forget this because I really want everybody's opinion on this. Day before yesterday, I went to Publix. If you don't have that where you are, it's a grocery store. And we love Publix. We love the company's philosophy, the whole employee to ownership track that they have, the way their service, their philosophy of service. And so if they have slightly higher prices, I'm willing to pay a little bit more for certain, for my ice cream and or my froyo and my soy milk, to walk into a grocery store and not be ignored when I'm trying to check out and I have a question. Anyway, so we like Publix. So I'm at Publix, and recently during the COVID nonsense, a lot of the stores, like grocery stores that have aisles, have tried to reduce cross traffic. And this will go back to my whole social distancing. That's not a new thing. Dude, we've been talking about personal space for decades. Get out of my personal space. Get out of my sphere. Stay an arm's length away. So this fucking social distancing hashtag culture bullshit we live in just gets on my nerves. Anyway, so to reduce the cross traffic and kind of spread people out a little bit, because we're incapable of doing this ourselves, because Gert stands in the middle of the grocery aisle instead of getting slightly over to one side and just blocks the whole thing while she's looking at her whatever that yogurt is that makes old ladies poo. And you just stand there and you're polite. I'm a good Southern boy, so I'm polite. Okay. Hi, so, yes. Thank you. Anyway, so they have, many of these stores have taken to putting tape on the floor in the forms of arrows and X's to say, go down this aisle this way, come back up the other way. Nope, don't enter here because we're trying to keep the flow. And Publix, the last time I was in there, has permanent, professionally printed floor not inlays, but kind of stickers, whatever, for the floor that say this way and that way. And I think that is magnificent. That's one of the changes we talked about last week, where you say, what's going to change? Is there going to be anything good? Is there going to be bad stuff? What's going to change? That's one of the things that I am really happy to see. Step off, George. Stay out of my space. Keep things flowing. Don't be an obstacle. Anyway, so as I proceed through my grocery, typically I will go in the door to the right. To the right in my Publix is the bakery and the deli and the produce. And then I will snake my way up each and every aisle until I get to the very other end, which is the cheese and the yogurt and all that stuff. So as I'm snaking up the one aisle, I almost went up the wrong aisle myself, but I was paying attention. I was trying to elevate the space around me by paying attention, spatially aware. Write that down. Spatial awareness. And here come these two young ladies. They were, I'm going to guess, somewhere between 22 and 27. Somewhere in that range. And they looked exactly like you would expect them to probably look. And they were, I'm sure, delightful young ladies. And they were shopping for, wine coolers and, free-range quinoa. And they bumped it. They were coming up the wrong way. And I moved to one side, but I was watching them going, are they going to pay attention? And even no. Neither one of them could bother to pull their noses up out of their phones to make sure that they weren't going to slam into someone. And I said, okay, here we go. So I kept on, came back up. About 3 hours later, same thing happened. They're going the wrong way. Everybody else is going the right way. They're snarling traffic and getting all up in everybody's space. 2 hours later, it happened again. So, my question to you, Das, Chill, Will, Afu, Sean, Angie. Welcome, Angie. So glad to have you. I'm glad you popped in right at this point because we have a question. If you need to know what we were talking... All right, I'll reset. Hey, Angie. I'll do a quick reset for you. So I was in Publix, grocery store. They got the aisles marked. You go this way, you come back up this way. Keeps everybody from bumping into each other and social distancing. And these two young ladies kept walking up the wrong aisle, the wrong way, and they were not paying any attention and just forcing everybody to get out of their way. So after the third time this happened, it took all of my self-control as a gentleman to not say, hey, dummies, pay attention. Pull your head out of your ass and pay attention. There's a plague. We're all trying to stay apart from one another. Can you help a brother out? So at what point should I have helped them with their day? Because at some point, this is what we've lost in these generational crossovers. Generational responsibility means that you teach your children the best of what you know. The best you can be, you make every effort. Your children hopefully can take your wisdom as they grow up, cast off the dumb shit that we did, and then our parents, and then our grandparents did, and then add their own new good stuff. And then the cycle repeats itself. That's generational responsibility in a nutshell. Anyway, so what we've missed lately, we have broken the cycle, which is no one gives a crap about teaching anyone anything anymore. It's much, much too easy to just keep your head down and go on about your day. Nose in your phone, don't pay any attention to anybody else. And at that point, when somebody does something so egregious that something needs to be said, like, hey, pay attention, then everybody gets their knickers in a twist. And thank you, Angie. Personal responsibility. With great freedom comes great responsibility. Although I think we've gotten to a place where we really don't want either anymore. It used to be, embrace the freedom, embrace the responsibility. Then it got to be, I just want the freedom. Hell with your responsibility. Now it's like, fuck, man, I don't really even want the freedom anymore. I got my phone and YouTube. What the hell else do I need? Oh, and a government check. Wow, I don't want freedom or responsibility. But yes, Angie, you're 100% correct. Personal responsibility. So anyway, when you do get to that friction point, that moment where you say, excuse me, but would you, and this is where I go, I like to try to go back to, the dialogue that we learn on Downton Abbey. You can get into an argument with someone and not end up cutting somebody's throat. You can elevate the discourse. And then when you disagree, when you move on from one another, you can say, good day, sir, or good day to you, madam. I'll say good night. So the generational responsibility has been broken. And so am I just supposed to just keep getting out of the way? That is very true. Actually, it's a little bit about what you say, but it's also very, very, very much about how you say it. But your line, Angie, not what you say, it's how you say it, is very true, and there's a word for that. And it's one thing that I learned from my father many, many, many years ago. The word is tact, and the saying goes that tact, when one possesses tact, one has the ability to tell one to go to hell and have that person be happy to be on their way. So, I've always known, I know I need to work on my delivery. I have a good message. The delivery system sometimes is a little brusque, shall we say, a little salty. I have a 16-year-old daughter, and she reminds me frequently of just how brusque I can be. So you tell me, is it okay anymore to maybe tap someone on the shoulder? And hi, Cece. Very good to see you here. Is it okay to tap someone on the metaphorically tap someone on the shoulder? I don't think many of us are going to be tapping each other on the shoulder for quite some time, and that's okay. But to metaphorically tap one on the shoulder and say, hey folks, did you notice that there are signs on the floor that are here? They're here to help everybody. Just kind of keep everything moving in the same direction so we don't bump into each other. You know, hashtag social distance. Anyway. So, this week in history, a few things happened. I like to do this day in history, but I kind of rolled a few of them together. And I did a podcast about 3 years ago about what happened to when we were awesome and we did stuff. And one of the main influences of this podcast was I thought back to Evel Knievel. Angie, have you ever heard of Evel Knievel? I'm looking at your picture, but it's teeny, teeny, tiny, and I can't tell if you're a youngin' or if you're up here with me. She has heard of Evel Knievel. Okay, very good. Evel Knievel wasn't the world's greatest human as far as a husband and a father, but dude, that guy got shit done. Huevos. Evel Knievel was every damn thing that's ever been good in the world. Going to the moon. I want you to imagine strapping yourself in 1969, strapping yourself on top of the world's largest tube of explosives and blowing yourself off the face of the planet, going up, slinging around the moon, getting out, doing a little two-step on the moon, hitting a golf ball, getting back in your little race car, going back up to your little module and going back to Earth in 1969. Balls. Unbelievable. 1969 was a very good year, was it not, Miss Cece? Well, my dear Angie, you and I are in the same demographic. I happen to know exactly, if you see the list of folks over there, Miss Cece was with us enjoying her time in Japan in 1969. I was there as well. That's enough of that. But anyway, this week in history, the Empire State Building was dedicated. And if you want to read a cool story, we were talking about history earlier. If you want to read a cool story about history, go and read about or look up a video, a documentary about the race to the sky, or race to the clouds, whatever they called it, between the Empire State Building and the Chrysler Building. Fascinating. People used to get stuff done. Hooking and jabbing. But anyway, in 1931, the Empire State Building was dedicated. And it made me nostalgic again for that time when we did crap. We don't do anything anymore. We consume. We whine and bitch about everything. If our latte's too hot, or if Publix is out of toilet paper, or whatever. We do a lot of whining. I'm in Bluffton, South Carolina, Angie. I was referring earlier to Cece, who's in the chat room with us on Here's the Thing Live, was in Japan in 1969, as was I. And I was born there. Tachikawa Air Force Base. Yokota, right? I thought that was outside Tokyo. Was that Yokota proper? Cece? Also, around that same time, the Empire State Building, just 2 years later, in 1933, the first reported sighting of Nessie, the Loch Ness Monster. And she's still with us to this day. About 11 months ago, I stood on the banks of Loch Ness. And I looked for Nessie. I did not see her. You're in what part of Scotland? One of my very favorite places on earth. Angie, you need to go back and download the episode when I post it later so you can hear me talking about my heartfelt affinity for Scotland and my border collie. And the fact that I will end up living somewhere around Edinburgh, St. Andrews, down around. I did some work with Neff Hill Border Collies down about half an hour-ish. So southeast, half an hour-ish southeast of Edinburgh. Oh my goodness gracious, it was so beautiful there. Just outside Edinburgh. I loved Edinburgh, by the way. I hadn't planned on discussing this, but we can do whatever we want here. The thing, first of all, it was May. It was late May when we flew from Philly to Edinburgh, and we had some locals. Yes, and we are a member of Clan Campbell, which is near Stirling. Those people are all near Stirling. Anyway, we flew into Edinburgh, and we had some Scottish folks who were flying back home, and one of the ladies next to me said, "Oh my goodness, you're going to look at the weather." I mean, it was perfect. It was about 72 and just crystal blue skies, not a cloud in the sky. And apparently that's unusual. And so we landed in Edinburgh, and proceeded to walk about the most beautiful day. Loved the city. We ended up, we stayed in Edinburgh for a few days, for, I don't know, 3 days, I think. And then we got on the train and went up to Inverness, and then on the train back down to Glasgow. And then we flew from Glasgow back down to London. So, yes, that was unusual, but it was so magnificent. However, the 2 days later, back to Edinburgh. I don't want to get on Inverness is your hometown. I loved Inverness. It was just chill. Really chill little place. And I think we were there before the height of the tourist season, which is just absolutely fine by me anywhere I go. But it was quite lovely. Chill little place. Little coffee shop we went to down there, and we got on the lorry. Is that what they call them? The lorry? Is that the bus? I forget what they call it. But anyway, oh my God, that was terrifying too, taking that ride from Inverness out to the castle, Urquhart Castle. But oh, how beautiful, and oh, how much I love Scotland. But Edinburgh, before I forget, back to Edinburgh. The thing I loved about there, we stayed right downtown, just maybe like a block up from the train station in the middle of town. And we stayed in an Airbnb, and this is the moment that I knew that we were in an ancient land, because we were on the 6th floor of this Airbnb, and there was no lift, as you say. There was no elevator. and we had just flown transatlantic, landed at Edinburgh, took an Uber from Edinburgh Airport to downtown to the train station and lugged our luggage up the hill up to our Airbnb and then up 6 flights of stairs into a building that was probably 500 years old. And that's what I was getting at. The thing I loved about Edinburgh is everything there is 1,000 years old. And in America, in the United States of America, when we have things like that, we build giant fences around it and nobody can get anywhere near it and you just have to point at it and everybody lifts their phones up and take pictures. Over there, everything is 1,000 years old. The coffee shop you're in, the pizza restaurant you're in, your Airbnb, the gift shop next to the train station, everything is 1,000 years old. It is so cool. But the most badass thing about Edinburgh is that no matter where you are in the city, you look out and up on this massive cliff, like a medieval movie, is Edinburgh Castle. Just sitting up on that precipice overlooking. It is so cool. And I went up, our Airbnb was next to Calton Hill, so I walked up Calton Hill and took those shots right across from there. Took some photos from up there, and it was, I did not, Angie, no, I didn't get a chance to do that. We tried to make it as chill as possible, but we did have places to get to and things to do. And we wanted to eat some, and we wanted to walk some, and the cool thing was taking the buses around because you get an unlimited pass, and you take one big lap around the city, and you can plug your earbuds in if you want to or not. And you can learn stuff and see stuff and kind of map out your area. And then you use the bus as like a taxi, it's transportation. You can get on and off at any stop. So that was cool. But that was Edinburgh. And my name is Scott, yes. And I am a member of Clan Campbell. We meandered all over the place here, everyone. And I had a lovely Scottish lass join me. And so that sent me down memory lane. And it's been, boom, right at an hour. So I want to say good night to everyone. Let you guys get to your Sunday evening or Monday morning or Sunday afternoon, wherever you are. I didn't even get into my nasty little rant. And that's fine, because this is Sunday. So we'll save that for next time. But that's enough triviality for now. And here's to a joyful Sunday to you, wherever you are and whenever you are. Always remember that Here's the Thing can be found on the Podbean app. Here's the Thing at Podbean.com, iTunes, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, TuneIn, iHeartRadio, Spotify, and lots of other places in the podcast universe. For virtually effortless podcast enjoyment in your home or on the go, simply ask your disembodied AI robot servant to play Here's the Thing from your favorite preferred podcast consumption platform. I love being silly radio guy like that. Anyway, you can find that if you've just found me, thanks everybody for being here. Throw out those hearts, throw out those meow meow beans. You can go check out my Patreon page if you'd like to be a contributor, and for as little as $1 or for as much as $1 million, you can become a patron. And that is certainly appreciated. That's patron.podbean.com/here's a thing. And as always, welcome in some new folks. Welcome to the family, Japan, Sweden, and Montana. So glad to have you. Thank you for your time and devotion to reason. Let's keep growing the family. Share the episodes. Go back if you're new, download the catalog. You will get a kick out of everything. And as I always like to say, I'll close with this. Thank you, everybody, for being here. I appreciate your time, but I want you to remember a few things. Be authentic. Like what you like. Let no one control your space. And always find a way to elevate the world around you. Your square one starting block for that is authenticity. Be authentic first. If you can't do that, nothing else you do or say matters at all. Thanks, everybody. Please have a great night, and I'll see you here next time. Bye, y'all.